literature. Okay. So before we go into what is American literature and then what the book talks about and all that, let me take you through the course book. I'm hoping that every one of you has the course book. It's a red pinkish color book. If you have it, please read that book. That's a very important book for you for your exams. Hold on for 1 second. Huh? I think they've given me screen share access, but hold on. Can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you can, right? Okay, hold on for 1 second.
American literature అంటే ఈ బుక్ ఇప్పుడు ఈ సబ్జెక్ట్ అయింది. ఇంతకుముందు వేరే 5 బుక్లు ఉన్నాయి ఫస్ట్ ఇయర్ లో. కాదు
Please, all of you mute your audio, please.
ఇంగ్లీష్ రాకుండా తెలుగు చెప్పలేదా? ఇంగ్లీష్ రాకుండా తెలుగు చెప్పలేదు.
వీడియో ఆఫ్ చేసుకోండి.
తెలుగుతోనే కావాలి వచ్చలేదు. చూద్దామంటావా? 2 years. పీజీ అయిపోయాక బీఈడీ చేశాను.
Can you please start the class?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot to unmute myself. I was talking for like maybe 1 minute. I'm so sorry. Okay, let's just start again. Okay. So before going into the course book, let us first, list some instructions for the class. These instructions are only for American literature class, and other counselors might have other instructions. Okay. So first thing is be on time. I know it is not always possible, but try your best to be on time. Second thing is keep your cell phones on mute. Please don't unmute yourself unless you have a question. And then let's make this a participatory session. Let us not, be in that typical classroom scenario where I'm just talking and then you're just listening. It's going to get really boring if we do that. So let it be more participatory. So your opinions are welcome and then your ideas are welcome. Okay. Share it with everybody. And then if possible, keep your video on so that I don't have to, talk to a computer screen. But if that's not possible and you have network issues or something, that's fine. I understand that. Okay. And then post your questions in the chat box or unmute and then speak. Okay, great. I see 53 participants here. So this should be an interactive session either way. Okay, before we go in, let me tell you about the course book format. We have about 5 blocks in the course book, and then it has about 20 units. Okay, and then we only have 8 classes. So we'll try to finish like 2 or 3 units per class, but then there'll always be exceptions. We can sometimes do 1 unit or we can sometimes do 4 units. We'll see how it goes in these 8 classes. But the way the book is organized, it's really well organized. The block 1 talks about introduction. Here is where we talk about what is American literature, what are the major themes of American literature, when did it all begin, and that kind of stuff. Okay. Then we'll move on to block 2, which is fiction. We will talk about what is fiction from an American literature point of view. Then we'll talk about this person called Edgar Allan Poe, who was a very famous American short story writer. Okay, somebody unmuted themselves. All right. Then we'll move on to 19th century American fiction, then 20th century American fiction, and then contemporary fiction. So if you look at this course book, the way it is organized, it's temporal. What does that mean? We'll start it where it started, and then we'll go on to 19th century, then 20th century, and then we'll come to contemporary fiction. So it's really well organized. Block 3 is poetry. We will talk about what is American poetry, who are the major poets in American poetry, and that kind of stuff. It's again organized in the same way. We'll talk about, the older poets first or the earlier poets first, and then we will move on to 18th, 19th, 20th century, and then the contemporary poetry. Okay. And again, you're all welcome to, unmute yourself. If you have any questions or if I'm going too fast, let me know. I will slow down. And the whole goal of this class is for us to understand what I'm saying and then, share ideas and opinions. That's the whole goal. Okay. Moving on to block 4, we have drama. And this is probably the easiest one in American literature because there's not much to talk about American drama. But we will talk about American drama. We'll talk about, this famous dramatist called Eugene O'Neill. And then we'll also talk about a play by Arthur Miller. And then we'll talk about contemporary drama. We will end the course with last block, which is recent trends. Now, this is a kind of misleading title, I would say. Why? Because it talks about 3 very big topics: women's voices, Jewish writing, and African American literature. Now, these 3 things are huge in themselves. Okay. So what we'll try to do is we with this small book, we cannot talk about these 3 things in detail. So we will try to, introduce ourselves to these 3 topics, and then we'll see how it goes. Okay. How does that sound? Okay. Anyone? Can you again confirm that I'm audible?
Yes, sir. It's audible.
Okay. All right. Okay. Then
Yes,
let's move
sir.
on. Okay. Let's move on then.
Yes, sir.
Well, today what we'll do is we'll start with block 1, unit 1. And then the objectives of this unit are, we'll first try to understand what is American literature. We'll try to learn what is the uniqueness of American literature. What is called American literature? I mean, what qualifies to be an American literature? Okay. Then we will move on to major themes of this type of literature. And then we will try and look at something called Americanness, which will be dealt with across the units and chapters, not just in today's class, but we'll try to do as much as possible in the next, half an hour, 40 minutes. Till what time is this class? Can somebody confirm? 1 p.m. Is that right?
Yes, sir, 1 p.m.
Okay. Okay. So before we go into American literature, right? I'm not sure how many of you have a bachelor's in literature. Does anybody have bachelor's in literature or English? Anybody in the audience? Okay, seems like nobody has a bachelor's in English. That's fine. So what we'll do is we'll start from the basic. Okay, let's ask ourselves first, what is literature before we go into American literature? Okay, I know the title of the book says American literature, but let's first understand what is literature. Anybody? Any ideas on what is literature? And again, there is no right or wrong answer. We are just in a discussion here. So please feel.
Literature is a history of any subjects, irrespective Telugu or English.
Okay.
And I think it is communication also.
Okay, good, very good.
History of any subjects, I think.
History of any subject. Okay, all right, good.
Thanks.
Okay.
Written work. Literature is a written work.
Please, we can address you with your name, if that's okay.
The books and writings are published in a particular name.
Is that a published what?
Books and writings published in a particular.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good definitions.
Yeah. Go on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning, sir. I think that literature is all about the study of reading, writing, and putting into the critical analysis of the study of all about grammar and everything put into the content.
Good. Okay. Yeah, let's hold on to that definition. I'm sorry, how do we address you? Mildred or Smith? Which way?
That's okay. Anything is all. Mildred.
Okay, Mildred is fine. Okay, that's a very good definition, Mildred. But there are some problems with that definition because puts everything into the gamut of literature. So let's come back to that. Okay. You basically thing that is published in a certain age, all good definitions, but broadly the definition generally considered poetry.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Breaking in between.
Yes, sir. Your voice is breaking.
Hold on. How about now?
Yes, sir. Can you once repeat?
The literature means it's an imaginative or creative writing, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. All good definitions. And like I said, the broad definition where when we talk about, the old times when literature was being talked about, the broad definition is any collection of written work. So prose, drama, poetry, all these come under literature. Okay. But then the question comes up, what about oral literature? Let's say, somebody is talking about something. Can we call that literature? Or are we particular about, only something that is written is literature and whatever we speak is not literature?
One can speak about literature. One can even write about literature. One can, in different forms. It's in different forms.
Okay. Okay. Different forms. Okay. Okay. Then what about, let me take a foot forward and then say, what about electronic literature? What about, films or documentary films or whatever? Can we call them also literature?
It can be in different languages. It can be in different, it can be in different forms.
Okay.
Storytelling.
Okay, good. So now we have changed the definition of literature to anything that is written or oral, or it can be electronic. It can be, in different forms and it can be in different modes, right? So anything that even digital modes. Yes, Sri Lakshmi, do you want to say something?
Sir,
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Literature means is a representation of life, as a mirror of life.
Very good definition. Yeah, very good definition. That's good. Okay, so let's move on from the definition. Okay, now that we know what is literature, said a lot about literature. We said it's drama, it's prose, it's poetry. For now, let's consider all these are literature. Okay, now we come to the question: what is American literature? So when I say something like Telugu literature, it is literature written in Telugu, right? And then when I say what is Hindi literature, literature written in Hindi. That's an obvious. But if somebody asks you what is Indian literature, you can't say it is literature written in Indian, right? Because Indian is not a language. Now, similarly, when somebody says American literature, we can't say it is literature written in American because American is not a language. So immediately you'll have a question, then what makes something American literature then? Any ideas on what is American literature then? If you can't say literature written in American is American literature, what is American literature?
It is formed by a certain group which was after the British rule. Then every country making their own, starting up with their own ways of how to implement their language and coming into existence about their own, whether it's poems or in literature or in different forms. That's what I feel.
Anybody else? It doesn't even have to be American literature. Let's try and define Indian literature because I'm hoping that, most of us are Indians. So let's see, what is Indian literature?
Indian literature
written in India or literature written by Indians, or what is it?
It can be by Indians, and it can be for Indians, it can be for different parts of the world. And we Indians have different languages. And so we have different types of poems coming in from different countries, from different parts of the state, and depicting the various cultures about it, and the lessons and the stories and everything put together.
Sounds good. Any other answers? Anybody wants to contest what Mildred is talking about, or add to what she's saying?
I think literature, excuse me, sir.
Yeah, go on.
I think literature, I think the literature means the expression of the feelings or the happiness or the mood or the situation they are going on. I think they represent that in this literature form.
Okay.
Sir, I think American experiences.
The question is, what is American literature or what is Indian literature?
American experiences.
American experiences, Nagalakshmi. Yeah, that's an excellent one. Let's hold on to that definition and then we'll come to it. Okay. Now, one answer that I regularly get is literature produced in the US is called American literature. Can everybody go back on mute, please? Aisha.
Hello.
Nagalakshmi, Vasundhara. Can you all
Hello,
go back?
Sir, excuse me.
Yes.
Sir, it's defined by certain recurring themes which arise from the unique American experience.
Okay. Yeah, that's directly from the book, I'm thinking. But yeah, let's see. Okay, that's a good definition. But let's see why it's a good definition. Okay. So like I was saying, one answer that I regularly get is literature produced in the US is called American literature. That's the simple definition. But well, this is kind of sort of okay. It is not completely true. Okay. So think of this. Okay. If you as an Indian go to the US and write about something, will it be American literature or Indian literature? Will it be American literature just because it is produced in the US, or will it be Indian literature because you are in India? Okay. Just think about this. You don't have to answer these questions. Just think about it at the back of your mind. Now, for understanding what is American literature, first thing is we have to understand what the American experience is. Okay. Now, what is American experience? It is related to one term that is very important, which is called American dream. Okay. Let's not even go into America right now. Let's stick to close to home. Is there an Indian dream? Now, somebody comes and then says, asks me, Ashwin, what is your dream? I can tell what my dream is. Somebody comes and asks Sindhu what is her dream is. She will tell what her dream is. Vasundhara will say something. Aisha will say something, so on and so forth, right? But we together as a community, if somebody comes and asks, what is the Indian dream? Do we have an answer? Can we say we all have the same dream?
No.
No, we can't. Yeah. So in the similar fashion, I mean, if you really, common sense basically says it's not just about India. You can't say you have an American dream, you have a UK dream, you have an Australia dream or something, right? But America is the only country that has that has basically come out and then they said they have a common American dream. Okay, right now it's not valid, but way back when. Okay, now what is this American dream? There is this guy called literary historian who's called Vernon Parrington. He defines American dream as, you know, the promise of a better, richer, and happier life for all our citizens of every rank. So what he's saying is, anybody, it doesn't matter who you are, as long as you're a citizen of US, the promise of a better, richer, and happier life is what is an American dream. Okay. But if you look at these terms, these are all very subjective, right? I mean, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, all these are different things for different people. But we will not go there because that's more into philosophical side of literature, but let's not even go there. Let's stick to Vernon Parrington's definition. And then let's say American dream is the promise of a better, richer, and happier life for all US citizens. Then what is American literature? American literature is the expression of this American dream. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. They have an American dream, and then whatever talks about this American dream, whatever talks or expresses this American dream, that's what's American literature. Okay. So let us make that our working definition of American literature. So when we go through this whole course, you'll have to remember that American literature is something that is talking about the American dream. Okay. Okay. And one point that I'll have to mention here is that American literature, especially the earlier literature, has been heavily influenced by religion. Okay. Christianity in particular. In the earlier centuries, religion played a major role, especially, like I said, Christianity. So you'll find a lot of symbolism and references to the Old Testament. Okay. While this is not a specific character of only American literature, I'm not saying that, you know, Christianity had a great influence only on American literature. You'll find the symbolism and references related to Christianity, even in British literature and other literatures.
Even in Indian literature.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Even in Indian literature.
Exactly. Yeah. You're right. Like I was saying, it is not a specific characteristic or a unique characteristic of American literature, but a lot of other literatures also have gleaned from the Old Testament. Okay. So you will find a lot of symbolism and references related to Christianity in American literature. My whole point is it's a very important characteristic, especially of the earlier, you know, literature. Okay, good. Now let's move on to recurring themes. Okay, we are still in block 1, unit 1. Okay, we will talk about what are the recurring themes in American literature. Okay, somebody is unmuted. Soundarya, can you please go on mute? Salim, can you please go on mute? Please make it a habit to just go on mute. Okay, I mean, don't make us repeat that. You'll have to go on mute. Okay. So the next one is recurring themes. Why are we talking about recurring themes? Because this first chapter or first unit is what ties the rest of the book for you. What does that mean? These are the major recurring themes in American literature. And once we know what are these major recurring themes, what we'll have to do is the rest of the book is kind of directly or indirectly related to a lot of stories. Okay, fiction, poetry, everything is kind of sort of, it'll try to tell you a story. Okay, as long as you know what are the major themes in American literature, you can tie the rest of the book together to this first chapter. Now, why am I saying this? Because this chapter is extremely important, not only from a, you know, an examination perspective or whatever you call it, but it's an extremely important chapter to understand what American literature is. Okay, so I will go through the list, which is exactly in your book in the same this thing. But anyway, one thing before we go into recurring themes is, I keep repeating this with every class. You can never separate history and literature. Okay, history and literature are inseparable. So when you think of American literature, also think of American history. Okay, what I mean by that is, let's say one author has written a text in, let's say, 17th or 18th century or 19th century. Also think of, what happened to America as a country in that particular century or that particular time period, so that you can relate it to the literature that you're reading. Okay. And my suggestion is to just watch a quick video on American history on YouTube or whichever your, favorite platform is. Just go there and then, watch a very quick video on American history, so that you can understand what the country has gone through in the past 300 years or so. And then that will help you in understanding why people have written the way they have written. Okay, that will not only give you knowledge about US, but will, also give you ways of linking the country's history with the literature that we are reading. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay, great. So now let us come to the recurring themes. Okay, one of the first things that comes in this recurring or which is majorly repeated is something called wandering heroes. Okay. Now the term makes zero sense when you first look at it, because who is wandering and who is a hero? Okay, that is the first question. Now let us approach it in a little different way. I'll say people leave their home and then go to some other place and then settle there. Even that happens even now, right? I mean, most of us or many of us have, we leave our home country and then we go out somewhere for work or for whatever reason. Now that explains the wandering part, because we are leaving our home place and then we are going to a different country. But why are they heroes? Now, if you imagine a situation where, let's say, you or your cousin or somebody in your family is going to, let's say, US, you won't call them a wanderer, right? You won't say, yeah, my cousin is wandering to the US. You will never use that term. So don't think of these terms in the modern sense. Okay, let's think of this from a 16th, 17th, and 18th century kind of scenario. Now, the wandering heroes we are talking about here, the major difference is they didn't know what was in store for them in the new place. Now, this was not the time when we had cell phones and printing or whatever. Okay, they didn't know. Communication was really tough, especially over a long period of time, as well as places which are really far away from each other. So these people just got up and then they left their hometown or home country, and then they were moving to a different country without knowing what's there in the new country. They didn't know what they'll have to go through. They didn't have a home. They didn't have anybody there. They can't just, lift a phone call, a cell phone, and then call them and then saying, yeah, I'm at the airport. They can't do that. So that's why these are wandering people. And why are they heroes though? Because they are called heroes because
they're adventurous. For the reason
that I just said. I'm sorry, say that
again.
They
were adventurers who
Excellent.
went to unknown. They did not know what's going to be in store for them.
Right. That's why they are heroes. Yeah, very well put. Okay. Now, my favorite wandering hero is Captain Ahab in Herman Melville's Moby Dick. We'll talk about this particular work in, I think, like unit 6 or 7 or something. But for now, remember that wandering heroes is a major theme. Okay, let's leave it at that. Now, the next one is what Mildred kind of alluded to in her sentence. This is self-explanatory. The next theme is adventure. So a wandering hero cannot just be walking from one place to another and then just settle down, right? I mean, he can't just keep walking and then everything will be very well working out for him, and then he can't just settle down in the new place. He or she will have to go through adventures during their journey. So that's talking about that journey is what is a major theme in American literature. Now this particular theme is so important that a lot of titles of books themselves have the word adventure. Like if you look at Mark Twain's Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, right? There's adventure there. Or, Saul Bellows' The Adventures of Augie March, adventure again. Or Howard Pyle, The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood, adventure again. So there are a lot of books which have adventure in that title itself. So that will tell you, how important this particular theme is. Now this leads us to the next theme, pioneers. Can someone explain who or what a pioneer is? What is a pioneer? Or who is a pioneer?
Pioneer, in what I can understand, is that is somebody who begins with any new task. It's the beginner. Like
Okay.
you open a school and that the person who begins it at the first initial stage. I think that is what, in my understanding, is a pioneer.
Okay. Yeah. Good definition. Anybody else?
A pioneer is a person who is ready to face any dangers or any risks.
So you're saying pioneers are adventurous. That's what you're saying, right?
Adventurous. Yes, sir.
Okay. Sai, you want to say something? Sai Krishna?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Or first to explore or first to use, that I can say, that I mean. Sorry.
Sorry, Sahiti, can you repeat it? What did you just say?
First to use, first to explore something.
Okay. Okay.
That never
good.
knew before. Yep.
Okay, good.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, who begins and who establishes himself in that field, in that particular field.
Okay, all good definitions, but if you notice, all your definitions had one key thing, which is begin, right? This guy has to be the first one, right? So let me generalize this thing and then say a person who is among the first to explore or develop a certain idea or a thing, that guy or girl is a pioneer. Okay, let's talk about that. So the first people to settle in America are pioneers, because that's what the definition says. And the first person to develop a certain method, he or she also can be a pioneer. Now, coming to our theme, our wandering heroes are going through adventures and becoming pioneers. Why? Because they were one of the first people to go into certain land or, go into a new place and then do certain things. Now, what are these pioneers doing? What are they looking for? They're looking for freedom and then life fulfillment. They're looking for freedom from, it can be monetary freedom, or it can be freedom from their country. It can be anything. Okay. But the major concept is pioneers are somebody who is the first. You're all right. And what are our pioneers in American literature looking at? These people are looking at freedom and life fulfillment. Okay. Then moving on, the next one is resourcefulness. I'm thinking that all of us know what resourcefulness is. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to ask what the definition is, but I'm just going to say it's the ability to find quick and clever ways to, overcome problems or difficulties or issues in life. Okay. If you are resourceful, you will come up with clever ways to overcome issues. Okay. Now, from an American literature perspective, or let me give you an example. Let's say this is a common example that I always give, but let's say you're at your home and your gas cylinder is suddenly empty. Your cooking cylinder is suddenly empty. If you can find ways to still cook food, that is your resourcefulness. Okay. You'll come up with clever ways to overcome that problem. Okay. Now, from an American literature perspective, you can see this resourcefulness in, again, Huckleberry Finn, who this guy lies to get out of his problems. These are all white lies. I mean, it's not like he's a liar all his life, but he gets out of his problems by lying. So Finn's resourcefulness brought him out of his troubles. So we'll see this resourcefulness in majority of the protagonists. Okay. Okay, Geet, did you want to say something? Okay, moving on. The next one is male companionship. Now, this is not the sexual companionship we are talking about here, but the male friendship, okay, which is not sexual at all. Now, going to the example that I just gave, Moby Dick, right? We have two characters, Ishmael and Queequeg. We'll talk about these two characters in Unit 6. And then we also have, Huck and Jim in Huckleberry Finn, where we see this male companionship. We will also see this as one of the themes when we look at, one of the dramas from O'Neill. I think it's Desire Under the Elms or something, but we'll also look at male companionship there. Now, the next one is alienation. This is not the aliens that we talk about. It's not that, that Jadoo kind of aliens that we're talking about. This alienation is different. What does this mean? When you're moving from one place to another, you'll have to adjust to the new place, not just country. I mean, just imagine you moving from Hyderabad to Delhi or Delhi to Gurgaon or somewhere else. You will still have to, there is a phase of acculturation, there is a phase of adjustment, and then you will have to adjust to the new place, new culture, new people and all, right? Now you will feel alienated. What does that mean? You will feel out of place for a certain time before you get into that culture and then, put yourself in the middle of that culture. Now this is, alienation is also a very important recurring theme in diaspora literature. I'm not sure how many of you know what diaspora literature is, but that's not the topic that we have on hand. Now, because we are talking about alienation, let me take a very quick pause and then ask if anybody has questions. So far, is it making sense or do we have questions?
Sir, can you please repeat this male companionship?
Male companionship. Okay.
Yes.
Now, male companionship, like I said, is we're not talking about, the sexual companionship. We are not talking about two males getting married or anything. We are talking about friendship here. Okay. Like, for example, like I just gave, this novel called Moby Dick, it doesn't even have a, if I remember it correctly, it does not have a female character at all. It's a huge book, but all the characters in this book are male. Okay, and then we have two characters specifically in this book called Ishmael and Queequeg, who are friends. Okay, so this friendship between two males is a very important characteristic or a recurring theme in American literature. This keeps coming back in multiple books. Okay, like I said, Moby Dick, it comes, and then Huckleberry Finn, it comes with Huck and Jim being friends. Then, you know, Eugene O'Neill's Desire Under the Elms, there are multiple male people who are friends of each other, or you know, have familial relationships and have companionship with each other. So this is one of the recurring themes in American literature. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, moving on. After alienation, it kind of a related theme is isolation, which is, again, isolation is not, you know, somebody closing or pushing you into a room and then closing the door. That's not the isolation that we are talking about here. But what we are talking about is alienation and how it leads to a sense of isolation. You're not physically isolated, but then you have the sense of isolation where, you know, you think to yourself, what am I doing here? How am I so out of place here? Okay. And a lot of characters in American literature have no sense of belonging. They don't feel like, you know, yes, this is my place, I belong here. They usually reject society as if they don't fit in the society. There's a lot of work done, or a lot of work that's come out of American literature that talks about this particular theme. So this kind of leads them to living alone or not being part of the society. And we'll talk about this thing in when we talk about Faulkner's Light in the August. That's a classic example of, you know, of how this alienation and isolation works. But for now, just remember that this is another very important theme. The last one, or maybe not the last one, then the next one is innocence and experience. We will talk about how, you know, how a young boy, let's, as an example, a young boy who is innocent, right? I mean, the boy does not have knowledge of the world. And then he grows up and then he gains experience. So there is a transition from innocence to experience. We all start out very innocent and then we gain experience and then we understand how the world works, right? So we will talk about that also in some of the texts that we, or works that we'll look at in this particular course. Okay. Now, the next one is a very important one, and I'm sure all of you will agree this is not just particular to American literature. It is there in every single literature across the world, and which is the racial problem. Okay. Now, yes. What does this mean? Yeah. Somebody was saying something.
I agree with this. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now this theme, like I said, it's not specific to American literature. It's a universal theme. Let me put it that way. Okay. Now, before we look at what this racial problem is, and then actually we don't even have to look at racial problem because we all know what racial problem is. But I want to talk about a few, you know, key terms that American society is described in. It has first been described as a melting pot. What is a melting pot? It's like a soup. You know, you put in, you know, whatever, tomatoes and this, that, and everything into a melting pot, and then everything becomes a khichdi, and then it becomes a soup, right? So American society was described as a melting pot. But then, you know, the Native Americans or the blacks or anybody, they do not feel that they're part of an American society. You can't take a look at a melting pot, or you can't look at a soup and then say, you know, this is tomato, this is jeera, this is this, this is this, this is this, because they're all mixed, right? So that's not a good representation of the American society or any society. So what happened is they came up with a new term, and then they said, okay, it's not a melting pot, then let's call it a salad bowl. Okay. You know what's a salad, right? I mean, you'll have carrots, tomatoes, onions, and whatnot. They are in the same bowl or plate, but they still have their individual identity. You can point at one and then say, you know, this is carrot, this is tomato, this is onion, this is this, this is this, this is cucumber, and all, right? They're all living together, but they also have their individual identity. Now, an Indian politician also kind of does something similar. Shashi Tharoor, if you all know who he is, he compares the Indian society with a thali. Like in a thali, you have a roti, dal, sambar, curd, etc. Right? In this, we're all in the same plate, but we all have our own identity. It's kind of similar concept with a salad bowl because they don't have thali. Now, somebody said, well, that's fine. But then, in a salad bowl, everything has an individual identity, but there is no belongingness. I mean, we are not related to each other, right? You can pick the carrot and then say this has an individual identity. This is a carrot. Now, the carrot is not actually related to the tomato or tied to the tomato or onions or anything. So then they came up with this other topic or a new metaphor called quilt. You know what a quilt is? Quilt is like a bed covering made
Keep
of
us
different...
warm.
Yeah, it's a bed covering made of different fabric pieces. So it's not just one piece, but then, multiple pieces tied together, right? That's a quilt. Now, if you look at it from an American perspective, unlike the Japanese or Chinese culture, which is homogeneous through centuries, right? I mean, a lot of Chinese, majority of the people who live in China are Chinese, and majority of the people who live in Japan are Japanese. Now, we're talking about the old days, not the modern times. American society is not like that. It's kind of called a quilt now, where everybody has individual identity, which means you can say this is from this particular piece of cloth, this is from this particular piece of cloth, etc. But they also have a connection. All of them are tied together, right? So we started with a melting pot where we had just one, big pot, and then there was no individual identity. Then we moved to a salad bowl where everybody has identity, but then they're not related to each other. Then we came to quilt where everybody has individual identity, but they're also, kind of sort of related to each other or connected to each other. Okay. Now, coming to our theme called racial problem, it all started with the plantation culture. Slaves were brought from Africa to work in, cotton plantations, pineapple plantations, and whatnot plantations in America. And then, then if you really look at the history of America, US got independence in 1776, but it took a solid time to actually abolish slavery. Slavery was abolished in 1865. Okay, so solid 100 years, 100 years for them to even abolish slavery. So you can see how ingrained this particular theme was in that particular time. Okay, so that is why it keeps coming again and again and again. Even if you look at contemporary literature that comes out, again, somebody said it's not just America, everywhere. This keeps coming again and again. This particular theme keeps coming again and again. Okay, moving on to the next one, there's crime and violence. Again, I don't have to explain this because this is self-explanatory. Wherever there is, war for independence, there will be violence. And then, like we just saw, there is violence involved in slavery also. And then there are cases of domestic violence. It doesn't have to be, wars and then people fighting with guns and whatnot. It can be domestic violence. It can be violence outside. It can be communal violence. It can be any kind of violence. We will see, as we progress in the course, we will see how this violence kind of manifests. How does it show in each of these works? Okay. Okay. One more check. Does anybody have any questions so far, or can we move ahead?
Proceed, sir. I'm okay.
Okay. All right. We have 72 people. So please do unmute. And then if you have any questions, ask. If not, you're welcome to share your opinions also. Please don't make this one way because that's going, like I said, it's going to be boring really soon. Vivo Y21T, do you want to say something? You're unmuted. Okay, all right. Now let's talk about one last theme, and then we will kind of end the session here because it's supposed to end at 1, right? Is it okay if I go on until like 1:05 or 1:10 because we started a little late?
No problem, sir.
Yes,
Please go ahead, sir.
Okay. I promise I'll let you go by 1:10. Okay. Now, this is again a very interesting theme. The next one, it's called the Protestant ethic. Now, in the book, it is called Protestant ethic. I personally want to call it Protestant work ethic. Okay. What does this mean? This is something that we have always heard from, our parents and grandparents also. It basically says, if you work hard, you will succeed. Okay. We've all heard this, right? Everybody tells us you work hard, you will succeed. That's it. That is Protestant work ethic. Now, this keeps coming again and again in American literature. We'll see it in O'Neill's Desire Under the Elms, where, this person cultivates a land that is not arable at all. Basically means you can't grow anything. It's kind of like a rocky region. And then just by his hard work and then his family's hard work, he converts it into a crop growing land. Okay. So this again is an example of Protestant work ethic. It is also called Calvinistic work ethic. If you're interested, you can Google that and then see what Calvinistic work ethic is. It's a big topic to discuss. If we have time in the next class, we'll do that. Okay. But your book gives you a very good, excuse me, explanation of this. I will repeat this again and again. Please go through the book. It is hardly 200 pages or so, but it's very important. Everything is explained in a very, very lucid manner, and then it's extremely clear. So please do go through the book. Okay.
Ashwin, I am sorry to intrude you. Is it my voice clear, Mr.
Yes,
Ashwin?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good morning, one and all, dear students. I am Dr. Madhuri, Head Department of English. Trust you are all enjoying online class. Ashwin,
yes.
Is it okay? Can I continue for the next class?
Of course, ma'am.
And please wind up, then I'll be just addressing the student for 2 minutes.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, so I just wanted to end the class with one thing. If you get a chance today, I want you to find out what's the difference, or what is a symbol and what is an allegory. Your book already has the definition. Basically, I'm trying to force you to open the book today. Okay, try and find out what symbol and allegory is, and then we will talk about it in the next class. Does that sound okay to everybody?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I'll end the class here. Please jot down your questions, because these classes are meant for questions. They are not supposed to be a one-side lecture. So please come back with your questions. The more questions, the better. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Ma'am, I'm done. You can take over, ma'am.
Thank you, Ashwin. And my dear students, very good morning. In the morning session, there was a confusion. I can clearly see that. See, try to see. You have certain, all 5 classes will be there, each duration of 1 hour. Is it my voice clear?
Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am. My voice clear?
Yes, madam.
Okay. I can see almost 71 participants here. Please do remember, don't get confused. Boda Kalyani, please mute yourself. Mute yourself. If not, I am forced to mute you. Sri Lakshmi, mute yourself. Salim, mute yourself. Over Shrikant, kindly mute yourself. Okay. Yeah, I can see clearly. Please don't unmute if you are unable to answer. Okay, let me give 2 minutes time for my, just listen to me. You have to log in again. Morning, the first class is from 10:30 to 11:30. Again, the half-an-hour break is there. Indu, are you listening to me? Yeah, I can see you, right? I can see
madam.
Prasuna, you are keeping something on the video, but I don't think, if you are not here, please don't keep the video. Prasuna. Salim, mute yourself. Yeah, please don't, if you are not going to be there in the class, mute your video. The first session, yeah, Prasuna, mute your video. If you are not there, if you are not showing your face, then mute your video. We are not interested to see anything other than the students. Vasundhara, why you are, yes. Mute yourself. Yes. Yeah. See, the first session is from 10:30 to 11:30. Kindly log in with your own names, not with any other than the official name. Okay. Second class starts from 1 o'clock. Third class is 1:30 to 2:30. And fourth session will be, each session is going to have half-an-hour break. Okay. And the last session is 4:30 to 5:30. Respective counselors will come, academic consultants will come and will be taking the classes for you. You are going to have 8 classes, 8 sessions every Saturday and Sunday. Okay. Vasundhara, you wanted to speak something, Vasundhara?
No, madam, use
okay, yeah. Please mute yourself so that it won't be a disturbance to the classroom. If you are speaking in between, it will be difficult for the students who are attending online, and that will be very difficult for online sessions. Okay, and even you can mute your videos, because that will be distracting to the counselor who is teaching. Only if you have any doubt, you can unmute your video and audio while you are having any query. Please do read your textbooks. Take your textbooks in front of you, and everything is based on our textbooks, that is self-learning material. Keep your book in front of you so that it will be useful. Mamta, you want to say something? Salim, you want to say something? No? You are listening to me? Is it clear? If you have any doubts, don't go on post. Very good, very good. Don't go on posting the questions, only the link is. Today is the first day, so confusion will be there. Just go through your timetable. Only 5 classes for 5 sessions. Morning 10:30 to 11:30. Half an hour break. Again, 12 to 1, second session. Third session is 1:30 to 2:30. Again, half an hour break will be there. And 3 to 4 is the fourth paper and 5th paper. If the teacher is not turning up, kindly wait. If there is any technical issue and they may not be able to join, don't get worried. Okay, first day, the initial hiccups will be there for all of you. Kindly log in with your own name so that we'll be identifying, or your ID number, but not the pseudonyms. Am I clear for all of you? Now the second session is completed. Third session will be taken care. The group person will be coming for you. Kindly read the textbook and come to the classroom. Okay. If you have any query, definitely you can you can take the help of the academic counselors who are trying to help you out in your teaching and learning process. Am I clear with all of you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So I can see 72 participants here.
Yes.
Have little patience in the first day. Okay. You can join after. Yes, I can see Martha, Vani, Asma, Meghna, Nagajyoti, Asma, and Gitanjali. Yeah, I can see almost 72 people. I'll be interacting. I'm here to help you all. We are here from the Department of English. Any requirement you can post in your WhatsApp group, but don't get confused. Don't confuse others. Okay. Your web link is very clear. See the ID number, password. For every 1 hour, you have to change it. Not that from morning to evening, you will be having the same ID and password. For every session, you have new ID and new password. This will be continued for all the 8 days. That means every Saturday and Sunday. Am I clear, my dear students?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And have a good day. Join at the third session at 1:30. Okay? Take care.
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
If you have any queries, you can ask me in the third session. I'll be available even in the third session. Okay?
Thank you so much,
Okay,
ma'am.
ma'am. Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Ashwin.
Thanks, ma'am. I can drop off, right?
Thank you, sir. Ashwin, sir, very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for joining. I'll talk to you all tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.